Welcome to Asian American Life. I'm Ernabel DeMillo. October is Filipino American History Month, so we're in front of the Broadway Theater where Here Lies Love is currently playing. I'll have more on that story coming up. Plus, we'll take a look at Asian American New Yorkers who are lifting New York. Up close with civil rights activist Glenn Magpantay. Chinatown community rallies to save You and Me books. Second act from executive to creative artist. And Move Over Oscar winner, Your Mom is Stealing the Spotlight. This and more on Asian American Life. Here Lies Love is this season's must-see show, and it's making history as the first Broadway musical with an all-Filipino cast. Welcome to the biggest party on Broadway, where you'll find yourself transported to a disco and the thumping sounds of DJ spun dance beats. But take a closer look at the mirrored ball. Here Lies Love by David Byrne and Fatboy Slim is actually the story of a dictatorship, the rise and fall of Ferdinand and Imelda Marcos, who ruled the Philippines with an iron fist for 20 years.
This show gives audiences an opportunity to have a visceral experience of what it's like to be in a democracy, have your democracy taken away, and then to regain it and claim it back.
Arielle Jacobs, a veteran Broadway actress, plays Imelda Marcos. I interviewed her along with Clint Ramos, one of the lead producers and the show's costume designer, at the Rosevale Kitchen at the Civilian Hotel. We were surrounded by Broadway history and memorabilia, including designs by Ramos. For Ramos, whose resume is filled with Drama Desk Awards, Obies, and a Tony, Here Lies Love is an opportunity he never thought would ever happen.
The show is about my heritage and about my identity, and I think that makes it truly special. I don't think I've ever, not only over my Broadway career, but just my entire career in general, I've never encountered a project that really sort of triggers both the artist and the person in a very full way.
Here Lies Love is the first show in Broadway history to have an all-Filipino cast. It's also the first time many of the actors have played Filipinos on Broadway. Monumental, and yes, fun too.
Listen, we have a rice cooker in the green room. There's a rice cooker, okay?
And you two have been in many shows. This is the first time there's a rice cooker?
Yes. There's literally rice boiling in the theater green room every night.
Behind the scenes, there are also several big-name Filipino producers, including Broadway legend Lea Salonga, who opened the show in July as Aquino's mother. Pulitzer Prize winner Jose Antonio Vargas, comedian Joe Coy, and Grammy winner Her.
I feel like we have ownership. You know, we talk a lot about these two things, right? Art and culture, and there's an excellent piece of art created by Americans and Filipinos, and it's wrapped in being embraced by a larger cultural project. And so authorship and ownership are holding hands together very tightly and with joy. And to me, that's rare. And that makes me, it feels very complete. Right?
The road to Broadway has been a long one, 30 years, and Ramos has been with the show from the start. When David Byrne of Talking Heads fame came up with the idea to center a musical around Imelda Marcos. The show had a successful run at the Public Theater, Seattle, and London, but Broadway was always the ultimate goal. The setting is a disco a la Studio 54, where Imelda Marcos was often spotted when visiting New York. Producers spent millions removing the orchestra seats at the Broadway Theater to create an interactive dance floor.
So there's a part during the election campaign trail where Jose Lana and I are walking through the audience, shaking people's hands. And when I get to see the shift of their awareness that they're about to be connected with and they're about to be somehow a part of this story. It's so exciting and thrilling.
And while many theater critics rave,
this is the most entertaining new show on Broadway right now.
There is criticism that the show sanitizes the Marcos' dictatorship.
You say the word controversy or controversies, right? But I actually also say that it's great, it's dialogue, right? Let's talk about it, right? Let's talk about why this particular show, whether you've seen it or not, elicits all of these really deep, kind of strong emotions.
The show's website includes a section for those not familiar or too young to remember the history.
Shrewd and ruthless, Marcos declared martial law in 1972.
According to Amnesty International, 70,000 people were arrested, 35,000 tortured, and 3,200 killed during martial law. Billions of dollars also stolen from the country. Imelda became famous for her lavish lifestyle and shopping sprees, jetting off around the world spending millions. And of course, many of us still remember all the shoes.
She said that the 3,000 pairs of shoes now in the Palace Museum belong not just to her, but to her daughters and the maids and the nurses at the palace.
The couple eventually fled to the U.S. after 3 days of peaceful protests against the Marcoses in a movement known as the People's Power Revolution. For some in the cast, the story is very personal. Ramos lived in the Philippines during martial law. The show also has a deeper meaning for Jacobs. Her performance is dedicated to her grandfather, born in the Philippines when the country was a U.S. Commonwealth. He served as a Philippine scout during World War II and was heartbroken when the U.S. broke its promise to the Filipino soldiers who fought alongside the Americans. In 2020, he was finally recognized for his service and awarded a U.S. Congressional Medal.
I feel like because of his dedication, his perseverance, he gave us the gift of me being able to be here and tell this Filipino story on American soil.
And now, along with her fellow cast members, Jacobs is making history.
I think that I'm just overwhelmed and touched that so many Filipinos that come to see our show are seeing themselves. They're seeing their story. They're seeing Filipino artists on stage. They're seeing a piece of art that shares their history with the world and their culture with the world. And I know that I feel seen doing it.
The Philippines continues to be a democracy, its president elected by the people. But in a move that surprised many around the globe, the Marcoses are back in power. 36 years after they were ousted, the son of a former dictator, Ferdinand Marcos Jr., was elected president. And by his side during the campaign was his mother, Imelda. I'm Ernabel DeMillo for Asian American Life. In Asian Americans Lifting New York, we feature CUNY scholars who are making a difference in the community. Rainer Ramirez introduces us to our first inspirational New Yorker.
I, Glenn Magpantay,
do solemnly swear.
My job is specifically to advise Congress and the President on how the United States is enforcing the Civil Rights Act of 1964.
Just months after Glenn Magpantay's appointment as Commissioner of the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights, the bipartisan federal agency issued a groundbreaking report examining the federal response to anti-Asian racism in the United States.
Good afternoon and welcome to the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights briefing on anti-Asian racism in the United States.
The Civil Rights Commission found that at the height of anti-Asian hate during the pandemic, the federal government had poor data collection. There was a lack of language access in Asian American communities across the United States, and a lot of confusion over the definition of a hate crime, especially when it comes to Asian Americans.
Anti-Asian violence in America is not just hate violence, hate crimes, but it's of a broader swath. My colleagues put together a proposal that we need better training on what constitutes a hate crime in America. I made a recommendation that we need to look at the definition of a hate crime and expand it to include bullying, harassment, name-calling, spitting, not just death and serious bodily injury.
For Glenn, this is personal. The son of Filipino immigrants, Magpantay was bullied for being gay and Asian growing up in Long Island. That experience drove Magpantay to be a lifelong advocate of LGBTQ and Asian American civil rights. As an attorney for the Asian American Legal Defense Fund, and then the executive director of the National Queer Asian Pacific Islander Alliance. He worked on the Hate Crimes Act passed by President Obama in 2009, the same law that the commission now says needs updating.
You were spit on. Someone called you something. You were bullied. They scrawled the F word on your locker, or they scrawled terrorist on your desk if you're South Asian, Arab, or Muslim. Under federal law, that is not a hate crime, specifically. And the laws need to be updated in America to try to accommodate other incidents of bullying, racially motivated harassment, to keep our community safe. The laws of the United States on hate crimes are very narrow, very specific, and inadequate to address the violence and harassment that Asian Americans and so many communities of color are facing in America.
The U.S. Civil Rights Commission submitted the report to Congress. Magpantay says it's now up to lawmakers to act and enforce their findings. For Asian American Life, I'm Rainer Ramirez.
Becoming the first female to own an Asian American bookstore in New York City was a dream come true for Lucy Yu. A dream that was shattered this past summer when the store was destroyed by a fire. Now Yu is rebuilding with the same determination and spirit that created You and Me Books.
We can't predict anything. And so if I can laugh once a day through all of this, I'm proud of myself for that.
It's that unbreakable spirit that has kept Lucy Yu going in the wake of a devastating fire that gutted her life's dream.
We had to remove all the cabinets to make sure we treat for mold and smoke removal, and we lost a large chunk of our inventory as well. So we're really gonna have to start from scratch here.
Opened less than 2 years ago, You and Me Books was shuttered by the fatal fire on July 4th, which started in an apartment above the store located on Mulberry Street in New York City's Chinatown.
I started smelling smoke, and a customer asked me if we were safe. I had no idea. I thought it was fireworks from outside from the 4th of July holiday until my neighbor from upstairs came down and she told me there was a fire and I needed to leave.
It was February of last year when we first visited You and Me Books, and the store was just opening its doors.
Hi, welcome to You and Me Books. Oh, thanks.
As the first female to own an Asian American bookstore in the city, Yu garnered considerable attention by offering diverse voices in literature with an emphasis on the immigrant story. A child of immigrants herself, Yu recounted how growing up she couldn't see herself reflected in any books.
I think that beauty of that story was something that was really missing from books that I was reading growing up. So I wanted to have kids come in here, see kids' books in which they are represented, and have adults come in here and be like, oh, finally, I see a story in which this is my mother, this is my grandmother as the protagonist.
The space Yu created turned into more than just a bookstore, offering comfort to a community that sorely needed it during a volatile time of anti-Asian sentiment.
the immigrant literature that we had on the walls, with the stories that we were able to share, and the consistent growth of being able to find narratives that not only mirrored our own, but created windows to a larger span of narratives that we can really relate to. That all encompassed a sense of comfort that I wasn't aware of the full extensions of that until this moment.
A dream realized for you, whose journey was an unusual one as a chemical engineer who gave up her lucrative job to open up a specialty bookstore.
I put all of my savings, I left a very comfortable job to start something like this. So we were scrappy with it. I built everything. I built all the furniture. I built the bar here. All the paintings I put up, all the walls I painted myself. So as we were in the store trying to save as many books as we could, and the ceiling's caving in, and there's water everywhere, and there's soot covering everything, it was hard to even process the loss at that point. But it felt like my soul was hurt just seeing everything. We're gonna have floor to ceiling shelves.
A pain lessened by the overwhelming support you has since received, with donations to help rebuild totaling over $350,000 thus far.
I'm so grateful to have such a loving and welcoming community, and their support and love is going to fuel me through this.
Though the road to recovery may be a long one, with an estimated year to get the store back up and running, that hasn't stopped you. She's done several pop-ups, and now You and Me Books has temporarily relocated to the Market Line on Delancey Street. But You says make no mistake, the store will be returning to Mott Street.
I can't just leave a home like that, especially something that I've built from scratch. And I'm committed to this home. This home meant a lot to me and meant a lot to Chinatown too.
The committed community member hopes to preserve some of the original store by saving wood cabinets that survived the fire.
It's so important to me to represent so many layers of Chinatown. Like, when I first was in the space, it just didn't feel right to empty everything out and gut and not keep anything there. So I feel like in the same way that I'm carrying on the legacy of the new generation of businesses in Chinatown, I want to pay a little homage to the old businesses that were here. So hopefully we're going to do something with that wood, line the ceilings or something.
In a full circle moment, I pointed out that Yu's own story seems like one that could be found on the shelves of her bookstore.
It shows the resilience of our stories, and it shows the power of what we can save and how that story can still be transferred.
For Asian American Life, I'm Susan Jun.
I'm Kyung Yu. My conversation with the artist and former chair of the National Endowment for the Arts, Jane Chu, on the immigrant experience and why representation matters.
Jane Chu says her idea of comfort food has always included Southern fried chicken, corn dogs, and Chinese cooking.
I was born in Oklahoma and I grew up in Arkansas. My parents were both from China. What I have found through all of that is so delightful for me, and I'm so appreciative of having that, is that, you know, in some ways I could be in different orbits in terms of growing up. But I'm so comfortable in knowing how to synthesize different features and different perspectives at the same time.
These multidimensional perspectives are reflected in her art, where she layers colored images on top of black and white drawings, creating a three-dimensional effect.
One of the reasons I do a lot of drawing that looks like I've got an object drawn on top of it is because when you do that, you're learning that it looks like there's two dimensions at the same time. So it's one dimension that looks like a three-dimensional object, and it's sitting atop another scene that looks like it's a different dimension. That's my whole life. I am two dimensions, two different dimensions at the same time. I'm Chinese, I'm American.
Chu was born to Chinese immigrant parents who met in Chicago but moved to Oklahoma and then to Arkansas for her father's job as a college professor. She remembers starting piano lessons and drawing lessons as a child, but says the arts took on a whole new meaning for her after her father tragically passed away from cancer when she was only 9 years old.
When he died, it was only then that I realized that I did not have enough linear words to express my grief of the loss of my dear father, and maybe 9-year-olds don't have it anyway. So I did not have enough words to express my grief until there was the arts.
She says her art gave her voice and vocabulary to help process her grief.
And I did not have to solely depend on linear words that I didn't have access to. So all of that has come to help me realize that because of the arts, it allowed me to express myself in ways I didn't have before, but it also comes together to help me understand that everything counts, and that's why I went into the arts as well.
After earning a Master of Music degree from Southern Methodist University and a PhD in Philanthropic Studies from Indiana University, Dr. Chu went on to a distinguished career in arts administration and philanthropy. She was the CEO for Kansas City's Kauffman Center for the Performing Arts before being appointed by President Obama in 2014 as the 11th chairperson of the National Endowment for the Arts, in charge of hundreds of millions of dollars in government funding to support the arts. During her 4-year tenure, she traveled to every state in the country and saw firsthand the difference that arts funding can make, she says, especially in the lives of low-income students and communities.
Here comes the arts programs, which teach the same subject. It might be math, it might be science, it might be playing the violin, but in so many different ways they teach the subject, and the child, you watch a child just come to life because, similar to me, there was a new vocabulary on how they could express themselves.
In addition to her art, Dr. Chu is teaching a course this fall at the Colin Powell School at the City College of New York. The subject, social entrepreneurship, which encompasses so much of her learnings and experiences throughout her extraordinary career. I'm Kyung Yoon for Asian American Life.
I'm Vivian Lee, here at Spicy Moon Restaurant in Manhattan. It's part of a small empire of Szechuan restaurants. This particular one is vegan, created by the mother of Daniel Kwan. Yes, that Daniel Kwan.
A director is nothing without their incredible cast and crew.
He thanked many when he won the 2023 Oscar for Best Director with Daniel Scheinert for Everything Everywhere All at Once. The film also won Best Film and 5 other categories. But one person on Daniel Kwan's list of shout-outs was especially touching.
My mother, who is a creative soul who wanted to be a dancer, an actor, and singer, but could not afford the luxury of that life path, and then gave it to me.
I did not expect, but that warms my heart. I feel very happy and very happy for him.
Before her son became Oscar famous, June Kwan was better known as the owner and operator of several Manhattan restaurants, including Han Dynasty in the East Village and Joy Love Club in Chelsea.
Right, you like it?
Restaurateur is her second act. Her first, stay-at-home mom to Daniel and his siblings, Helen, James, and Jennifer. And she did not parent them the way she had been.
I have to study all the time and just keep on graduating, get the best grade. When I was young, I daydreamed, but then you can't. You have to wake up, do something else.
You weren't allowed to.
Yeah, no, we need to give children daydreaming time.
While all her children are creative, their works of art anchor Spicy Moon's decor, it was the decline in Daniel's first grade writing that dramatically changed all their lives.
He wrote quite a few very straight sentence, simple sentence, but has beginning, middle, ending, and like jaw-dropping ending, So I would say very, very interesting. A first grade can write story like that. And then when I read another story he wrote, like 6 months later, that story, I always say that story looks like soap opera. it's long and lengthy and no beginning, no middle, no end. I feel I kill a genius.
Here's how her son put it backstage on Oscar night.
And she panics and she says, oh no, my storyteller is dying in this school. And so she actually pulled me out and became a homeschool teacher for like 2 or 3 years just to protect my creativity. And at the time, I didn't know why she did it, but now I obviously, it paid off.
I can't run the risk of totally losing that talent. So I just tell my kids, I say, kids, let's go home. So we start homeschooling.
I understand how much she sacrificed, not just physically, but also just like mentally. She is so gentle and loving and open as a mother, but at the same time, she is fierce. It's like she is so strong and so honestly terrifying sometimes. Like the when she has a conviction.
One of those convictions, Daniel belonged in film school.
And I did not believe that I could be a filmmaker. And so I told her no. And I ended up going to UConn thinking I would pursue business or something much safer.
I was very harsh at that time. I say, but Daniel, you are not good in anything else.
I ended up reaching out to my mom about like, maybe 3/4 of the way through the semester. And I was like, Mom, I really don't think I belong here. I think I should probably go to film school. I think you were right. It's the kind of reverse of what you hear most immigrant stories are like with their children. Usually it's the opposite. It's like, I want to go to film school. Why won't you let me?
A mother's most important job is know your kids' talent and allow them to use this talent, no matter it's a successful career.
Few would argue with the success of Everything Everywhere All at Once.
The universe, he speaks of senseless things, is so much bigger.
And June Kwan still has many balls in the air, but as a business owner and not a full-time parent.
I'm really happy for her and like truly, I don't know, all of us are just like watching from the sidelines in awe that my mom is just, she really is living a second life and thriving in a way that like is remarkable.
Vegan Sichuan cuisine demands imagination. June Kwan just applies her own recipe for parenting.
Even daydreaming needs practice. If you have a desire in your heart that's so big and you don't get to do it, it's that may be the most frustrating things ever.
For Asian American Life, I'm Vivian Lee.
That's our show for now. If you want to learn more about these stories, be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Asian American Life. I'm Arielle. We'll see you next time.